So, Dead by Daylight has had a lot of collaborations over the years, with some famous ones being Resident Evil, Stranger Things, Child's Play, Nightmare on Elm Street, all of them very famous IPs that have been added to the world of Dead by Daylight, and even some of the most recent ones being the Five Nights at Freddy's collab and the Friday the 13th collab. Or actually, I think it's the Jason universe, I think it's called. I don't know, it's a whole rights issue with Friday the 13th. They couldn't actually get the OG Jason in, so they basically made their own Jason. Well, I don't think these collabs are going to be stopping anytime soon, so I'm making a video today to pitch my own idea for a potential collab. If Behavior even considers even touching this franchise, I would want to know what it would be like for Sin from Murder Drones to be a killer in this game.
Now I see something red.
So the main things I'm going to be focusing on here are gameplay-wise and basically story-wise. Like, if you've played Dead by Daylight, you'd know that each of these IP killers were taken at a certain point in the timelines of the IPs that they're actually from. I might briefly discuss perks, but I'm not very good at that kind of things, but I will try and, pitch some ideas for, perks, her own kind of perks to use in these games. But before we get into that, I just want to say this is, a new kind of series that I'm doing on this channel, where I'm just gonna be, pitching ideas, whether it be video game ideas, movie ideas, anything like that. So if that kind of video interests you and you want to see more of these types of videos from me, then please be sure to let me know by dropping a like and dropping a comment, tell me what you think, and even, interact with the video, pitching your own ideas. I'd love to hear your guys' ideas as well. I will still be making my other kind of videos where I talk about random topics that I like, but I just want to kind of branch out on this channel and, do different types of videos and see what you guys like. But enough yapping, let's get into the video. So how this is going to work is I'm going to split this video into 4 categories, that being lore, gameplay, voice lines, and perks. Each time I'm going to explain what I think would suit the whole character of Sin in the universe of Dead by Daylight. Starting off with the lore, we all know that in the lore of Dead by Daylight, the entity, the one who has control over these games, takes each of these killers from different parts in the universe to put them in this whole game. For example, when Michael Myers, aka The Shape, was first put into Dead by Daylight, it's insinuated that he was taken by the entity sometime after the events of the first Halloween movie. We can see this in the original cinematic trailer when Michael was being introduced. We can see that Michael is chasing Laurie Strode, who was the added survivor for this chapter, and she's in her original outfit that she had on in that movie. Another example being the Demogorgon from Stranger Things, taken sometime after the events of the first season. We can see this with Steve and Nancy, who were both the survivors for this chapter, and they were in their regular outfits in that first season. Point is, all the killers, even the ones before the licensed killers came, they all had their own lore as to how they were taken and what time they were taken from. So for Sin, I was thinking a couple of possibilities that would be the perfect time for the entity to take her, which would probably be either when she was first introduced and revealed to be not Tessa, but Sin, and she escaped down that flesh hole thing in the church. Or maybe before her death scene, where Uzi was in that void area, and Sin was about to, eat the null thing within her hand. I think any of them could be perfect times for the entity to take her, but I'd like to know what you'd personally think in the comments. I think it should be before her death scene. But then there's the question of, why would Sin fight for the entity? Why would Sin hunt for the entity? What would the entity offer her in order for her to be, compliant to the entity? Well, her whole goal, her whole motive in the show was to consume everything in the universe. Like, consume everything until nothing is left. And the entity could use that to its advantage by maybe manipulating Sin into being in like a constant cycle of eating everything. Like, the entity could constantly reset her memories into thinking that this is the first time she's doing it every single time. The entity does do something similar to this to another killer in this game, and that killer is the Spirit. And her whole lore is basically she was murdered by her father, and she came back as a spirit, hence the name, to kill her father. And then the entity saw this, took advantage of that, and brought her to the realm where she now thinks that every survivor she comes across is her father. Thanks to the entity, she now is in this constant cycle of revenge. The entity manipulated her into thinking that every survivor she's come across is her dad, and she's taking her revenge out on a normal person. So if the entity got Sin, I think he could take advantage of that constant hunger to consume everything that she has and make her relive it over and over again, thinking she's won. Like, this is my first time doing it, I'm winning. But let me know if you think this is good so far, or if there's anything you think could be changed or you think could be done differently. I'm really liking what I'm thinking of so far. I think it's a really interesting idea, but of course you guys already interact with it, let me know. Now to move on to my favourite part of this concept, the weapons and abilities of Sin. What do I think they should be? If you main killers, much like I do in this game, you know that each killer has a main weapon and a secondary ability, whether that be a secondary weapon or just another ability to help you within killing all the survivors in the game. One of the examples being Huntress, who has her main weapon, which is an axe, but she also has the ability to throw hatchets for a long-range attack. Or there's the Singularity, who has this claw-like weapon, and his secondary ability is to plant these organic cameras everywhere to keep track of all the players in the lobby. But to determine Sin's moveset, we'd have to look at her powers and abilities within the show. Her most notable powers being the ability to imitate voices and imitate people, and also teleport. And the only weapons she uses in the show are these claw-like appendages when fighting with Uzi and N and V, but there is also this other time where she grabbed a sword and used that as a weapon. I think any of these weapons and abilities could be used well for Sin's character in this game. I think her loadout personally should be the mimic ability and the claw-like appendage that she uses as her main weapon. Mainly because I think the ability to mimic other survivors would be pretty cool and broken as hell, honestly. Sin could very well be the first DBD killer to be like one of those kills that are able to like blend in and like not raise alarm to the other survivors. That way there's like a level of distrust with the survivor players, like they can't like really trust anything. Like, what if the person running next to me is Sin? What if the person that is roaming around over there is Sin? It's like, I think it would be a really interesting and cool ability for them to add. Teleportation is also cool, but it would be a bit of a basic ability. I think they had the chance to do something pretty unique with Sin, with this mimic kind of ability that she can do. And as for weapons, I think the one that would make the most sense would be the claw-like appendage that she uses to attack. Or they could do the sword as well. Either of them work fine, but I think it would make the most sense to incorporate the claw thing as her weapon, as her main weapon. Now, moving on from that, we now are going to talk about potential voice lines. Now, Sin's voice is just so perfect for a variety of voice lines. The only killers that I know of so far that have like voice lines in this game are Chucky, Wesker, and one of the more recent ones, Springtrap. Springtrap probably being my favourite in terms of voice lines. It has such a wide variety and every single voice line just suits the character so well. And these voice lines are activated through certain actions taken in the game. Like, for example, there's the opening scene of the match, there's stabbing someone, there's getting hit with a pallet, and there's hooking someone. I'm just going to play you a couple of voice lines from Springtrap just to give you like a general idea of what kind of voice lines we'd like for Sin.
I am here to claim what is left of you. You will not be spared. You will not be saved. Suffer now, like all who have stood before me. It is not your flesh that sustains me. It is your fear.
Not only are these really good voice lines, but they're also like packed full of references to William Afton's past. So those were voice lines at the start of the game when you actually load in as Springtrap. So we need voice lines that would suit Sin in that particular moment in the game.
Up you go. Farewell, insolent whelp. Go on. Scream. Go on. Scream. It will end soon. You will see.
And the hook voice lines are also very good, very in character. For Springtrap, he's basically mocking the victims as they hang there on the hook.
And now you are mine. Your time is up. Your time is up. What a pity. No one will save you. Pathetic.
Once again, very in character for William. Basically, also again, mocking and basically reprimanding the victims for losing to him, basically. Yeah, it's, they did a really good job on the voice lines for Springtrap. I have to give massive props to PJ Hollywood there. So, two things to consider when doing Sin's voice lines. One, it has to match with the scenario that's taken place, and two, it has to be in character. It has to feel like something Sin would actually say. Now, how am I going to present these voice lines to you exactly? Well, I can't hire someone, I'm not gonna use AI, and, yeah, kinda out of options unless I do it myself. That's right, I'm gonna go ahead and voice act the voice lines for Sin myself. How this is gonna work is very similar to the presentation on that Springtrap voice lines video. I'm gonna have like a text at the top of the screen, basically saying what the action is, and then I'm gonna voice act the line that would suit that particular action. Now, a couple of things to note before we get into this. 1, I'm not a voice actor, and 2, I am not female, and both of those criteria need to be met to get a very authentic Sin impression. I have had no voice acting experience whatsoever, and as you can tell by my strong, irresistibly masculine voice, I am also not female. But I buckled down and I did this. I thought of some lines that I think would suit her. I tried my best to do this, her robot text-to-speech kind of voice, and also played around with some effects to try and, best represent her voice. So, yeah, this is probably going to be a disaster, and you have free reign to roast me for it in the comments, but this is just like a proof of concept kind of thing. So, cueing the demo reel in 3, 2, 1. Thanks for the new planet. Now, let's eat. This will be how it ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. You will always be nothing. I am the absolute end of everything. I am the true answer to everything. Haha, got you. Stab. 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 Giggle. Giggle. Squirm like a worm on a hook. Your struggles are meaningless. Tee-hee, you have been so naughty. Up you go, eager beaver. Bye. Ow. 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 This is only delaying the inevitable. Annoyed growl. Angry. Too bad, so sad. Your flesh demanded invitation. Bad job, buddy. Your turn, eager beaver. And that's it, my voice lines for Sin in Dead by Daylight. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope I represented the character well. I think a Sin voice is pretty easy to do. All you gotta do is just talk very robotically and just pitch it up and down every now and then to try and get that kind of effect. So that's what I did with my impression. So I put on that kind of voice to the best of my ability, and also added on a voice filter to kind of add on to the inhuman, robotic nature of the voice. Let me know in the comments what you think of the impression and what you think of the lines that I wrote out for her. Do you think there's anything I could change, or anything you think isn't really sin-worthy, shall we say? Now that that's out the way, let's go ahead and move on to the last two things, the map and the possible survivor of this chapter, if they could ever fit a survivor into this. Because as you know, every killer comes with their own map, or their own survivor, and they just get none of those things. But every crossover chapter we've seen so far either has a map and or a survivor. So when considering a map for this crossover, then we have to think, it needs to be playable, it needs to be not too big and not too small, and above all else it has to just be a fun map to play on. But what map would fit into this game and would represent the Murder Drones universe well? Well, taking previous maps in this game into consideration, they're all very open and wide, so a couple options that I think would be good for this game would be either the Elliot Manor or Copper 9. Elliot Manor ties directly to Sin's lore and where she came from when she, first worked as a worker drone in servitude of the Elliots. Think about it, we got this big mansion area and this big outside area around the mansion. I think that would be a perfect map. But then there's also Copper 9, which is just a very wide outside area. I don't know if they'd include the bunker area, but the outside area would definitely be a good contender for a map. It's eerie and it's open. Personally, I think the map should be the Elliot Manor because it ties directly to Sin's lore and the whole lore behind the Absolute Solver. It's where she first came from, so I think it would make the most sense. But I could also see the Copper 9 bunker also working. But now for the last thing before we end off this video, who should be considered for the Survivor if there ever would be one? I would immediately rule off characters like Uzi or N because, well, they're robots and all the survivors so far have been human or human-like, so I think it would definitely be a bit strange for just a random robot to be among the Survivor cast. The only human characters that we're personally introduced to in Murder Drones are the Elliots from episode 5 and that one intern guy from episode 7. So if they were ever considering a survivor for this, I would say the intern guy, because he has personally faced off, well, not faced off, but he's encountered Sin before, and he's a worker for J.C. Jensen in the Murder Drones universe, so I think that would also make the most sense. The Elliots would have also been a good choice, but we don't really know what any of the Elliots look like except for Tessa, because, well, Sin literally wears her as a skin suit, so that rules off Tessa because, well, she's dead and being worn as a skin suit, and it would be a little strange to have Sin and Tessa whilst looking the same, it wouldn't really make sense. And we don't even get to see what her parents look like because they have this, blackened effect over them in the episode, so yeah, we don't know what they officially look like, so that leaves the only option being the intern, because at least he's real and is in a real flashback. Or the chapter could just not have a survivor at all. It doesn't have to have a survivor. I'm just putting some options out there if this would have an actual survivor. But with that being said, that's where I'm gonna end the video right now. I hope I did well with this video. This is the first time I'm doing this kind of video, and is gonna be in a whole long list of these types of videos that I want to make. So I hope I did well with this one, and if you want more videos like this, please do let me know by liking, subscribing, interacting with the video. If you like what you see, please do be sure to also check out my other videos. I make videos based on movies, video games, indie animation, basically just nerd stuff. So if that's the kind of content you like to see, please be sure to drop me a subscribe and you'll be subscribed and notified for the next video. But yeah, that's really all I have to say. So take care of yourselves and I'll see you next time.